Welcome to Processing Purpose, a business and lifestyle podcast committed to having honest conversations about the stuff in our lives that is often suppressed, ignored, or overlooked. We are two brothers from very different backgrounds, but with one common goal. From entrepreneurship to relationships, from hobbies to house projects, nothing is off limits as we process becoming the best version of ourselves in business and life.
We're back. I love it when we do it simultaneously.
If you guys heard what was recorded prior to the we're back, you would laugh.
It was not succinct. Let's just say that. But I am glad to be back. We talk about, what we do a lot, and I think it's important to share our lives a little bit outside of, work and family. But last night we got to go pop off some guns, which was super fun.
We did.
And if we got any anti-gun nuts?
Wrong podcast.
Yeah, not sorry. But we got to pop off some guns last night up at our lot with a couple buddies, and I got to tell you, that was life-giving. That was so fun.
Good.
Yeah,
it was fun.
That was really fun. To just get caught up and connect and all that good stuff. But
it's important to do guy things.
and I think actually, we could bring up COVID all we want and how it, messed things up. But I think just socially, what it did is we lost touch with how often we need it. Right. I'll speak for myself. I often do that where I project on everybody else. But really for myself is I lost touch with knowing the rhythm that I needed to have with my guy friends, you know what I mean? And have those connections. There's conversations between guys, especially dads, and husbands that is a safe space that you just can't have otherwise. Not that you're talking badly about anything, but you just have to be vulnerable in a way that you can't in another light. And so I'm just thankful for those friendships. I'm thankful for that time.
This really isn't what our podcast was about today, but do you think that most guy groups can be vulnerable like that, or do you think that it's rare that they can sit down and like take the armor off, not try and compete against each other? And
I think most people of course we all do, right? We put on that front, right? Because we want everybody to feel and believe that things are going better for us than they actually are. But I think once somebody, like I brought up your dad a couple episodes ago during our steelheading trip, starting.
Yeah.
Right. And when someone just opens it up like, hey man, I just
sets the tone.
Yep. And it's interesting. I think a lot of people don't know how to start that conversation, man. I want to be real with my friends. I want to get that sort of social feedback to be able to make better decisions, whatever. And I think we fear that our friends are going to judge us for it. But what our friends immediately do is start feeling like it's safe for them to share, right? Mm-hmm. Vulnerability is the most powerful stance in the world. And so when you just ask the question, can I share something with you, right? That's where you start, right? Hey, can I share something? And then if it feels awkward and it just doesn't feel like the right time, you could share something else, right? Yeah. But at least you open it up and you can decide in that moment if it's the right time to be vulnerable. But man, it just takes that first person. And if you are a leader in the group, and if you are, right? Yep. You're the nucleus of the group. If you start it, man, that conversation can go in ways that are so life-giving you just never thought possible.
I feel like we could do an episode on this. Should we do it?
Yeah, I think we should in the future. Yeah. Just vulnerability in general.
Especially as a guy.
Male vulnerability. Yeah. I think women are more than willing to be emotional. What did I hear one time? They said, we love men who cry, just not more than us, but more than willing to do so. And I think, it's funny. My kids have asked me, my son's seen me cry one time. He was diagnosed with a medical condition. And so it obviously broke my heart and had a moment. But my other kids have not seen me cry at all. And I've told them, look, I want to. Like, it's not something that I try not to do. I want to. And I want to do more of. I want to become more of that person so that I'm a healthier person and more centered. Anyways, we got a little off.
No, let's put that in the queue, though, because there's a lot there to unpack. In fact, we could probably just keep going and just make this episode about that. But we had kind of already decided about where we're going to go.
Yep.
So we'll circle back. But I think that's an important one we need to have.
And I think it's actually a natural segue into what we're going to talk about today, because you have to be vulnerable to make the decisions we're going to talk about today. And just, why don't you introduce it?
Yeah. What I think today should be around is like pulling the curtain back of what getting a new project off the ground really looks like.
Right.
And if you hearken all the way back to like episode 2, episode 3, episode 1.
Yeah.
Somewhere
in
in
there.
We did an episode about I have an idea, now what? I think that was the name of the episode.
Yep.
This is that was a little bit of applied theoretics, right? We had both done that, and so we talked about what that looks like. But I'm in the process right now of building a new project.
Right.
So I thought it might be kind of fun to talk about, what are you actually doing?
Right.
Like, what's the tangible step 1? Why'd you do that? Step 2, why?
Right.
And like, how do you build to get to something that you either, going back to validate as like, this is worth scaling, which we'll then do an episode on scaling if I get to a point where I check that box, or failure point of like, this breaks.
Right.
This isn't going to work.
Right.
So I think that might be kind of fun because it's this moment for me.
I love it. And for me, just to make clear, the connection point with vulnerability here is that you have to be willing to say, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. Right. And that's that enthusiasm piece we talked about earlier before we recorded was, man, you have to stay consistently enthusiastic through all this, but still be willing to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. Like, yes, I have skill sets. Yes, I have knowledge that I built, along the way, but still there's a lot of newness here no matter what. And it's okay to say, I don't know yet. I'm going to figure it out though. Right. The beauty is figuring it out.
Yeah.
Most people aren't willing to do that. They don't have the capacity to do that or whatever else. But I think most of us fear that, man, people are going to find out I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well, what? Yeah, that's okay. Actually, the more you
welcome to the club.
Yeah, exactly. And the more you say it in a way that doesn't sound wildly ignorant, right? Like, hey, man, I need help. That's a better way of saying I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, I need your help. Can you help me with this? Everyone leans into that. Like, I don't know one person that's like, screw you, man. Everyone's like, sure, I'll take my skill sets and help you, as best I can. And so utilize those skills. In fact, I'll just bring this one thing up, and I want you to start on kind of your processes and so on and so forth. One key point for my business is we're in a healthy position, but finances are not my strong suit, right? In terms of making analytical decisions with finances and making sure I'm putting things, I kind of go off of, this feels right, let's do it, And I would say more times than not, it's worked out for me, but that's, again, where you're going might not be the things it took you to get to where you're at. And so you have to sometimes change the way you're doing things. And I had a friend reach out of nowhere. He's building a little CFO like an interim CFO company where he
like
comes
a fractional kind of.
Yes, exactly. Great word. And so all to say is now I can lean into that, right? Because I started having conversations with him. He's asking me questions, hey, what's one of the bigger questions you ask financially when you get your business started, blah, blah, blah. So I've been helping him. And then I've been able to be vulnerable through that and just said, hey, Joe, I got to be honest, man. Like, we're in a healthy spot. I want to be better at this. Like, I need help. I want to be better at this. And he's like, dude, no problem at all. Actually, for free, because you're my friend, I'm going to go ahead and do this for all for you.
Fun.
And we're going to break it all down. We're going to put it into metrics and all that.
So
and I'm
valuable.
like, what? Just by saying I need help and I don't know what I'm doing. I could have faked it. I could have been like, oh, no, Joe, we got it all figured out, man. Yeah, you do your thing, but we're good over here. That would have been terrible because I wouldn't have gotten this help. And so anyway, be willing to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
That's my tangent.
Yeah. All right. So you have an idea, right? It's where it starts. Like, okay, I have an idea. And some of this is going to feel a little repeat maybe because it's going to cover kind of what we talked about. I have an idea. Now what? But we're a year and a half later.
It's a cycle of life.
And now we can actually apply it to like, this is what it actually means. This is what we're actually doing. So I had an idea to create a trade organization for those that want to do short-term rental investing. Okay, so this is like Airbnb, right?
Yeah.
They want to do vacation rentals, short-term rentals, Airbnbs, that type of thing. And there's various trade organizations, so it's not an original idea. By the way, your idea doesn't have to be original.
Not at all, actually.
You don't have to have an idea that's like, nobody's doing this. I've got this idea. It's going to change the world. If you have one of those ideas, great. I am not one of those guys. I'm like, I have an idea that I think I could bring more value to this area than what's being brought. So I'm going to do it.
Amazon sellers have made millions of dollars by doing the same thing everybody else does, just selling a bunch of warehouse items on Amazon. You know what I mean? So you don't have to be,
Yeah. So I want to create a trade organization called the International STR Association. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to provide tools, resources, coaching, software, investment opportunities, etc. Okay, so it's going to be I haven't decided pricing model, so we'll talk about that a little bit. I don't know if this is going to be like a monthly or annual membership, if it's going to be just pay for the service that you're getting. I don't know yet. But that's the point. When you're starting something, you don't know those things yet.
Right.
Okay, so I had to start by going, okay, here's my idea. What do I need to execute on to start answering these questions first? And so for me, the first question I had to answer is, what is my messaging? Okay, so I have an idea, and if you don't know how, your first question has to be, how do I reach my audience? Okay, I know how to reach an audience. That's what I do through lead generation, through Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. So
you know how to get people to look at you.
That wasn't a gap for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that's a gap for you, that's got to be where you start. Is how do I get this in front of the right people? Okay. I have this idea. How do I get it in front of them to see how they respond?
Who are the right people? Like when but how would somebody do that? Like how do you build out an avatar? What factors, demographics are you looking for or asking?
Yeah. So here's the thing. If you have an idea and you don't know who your market is, you don't have an idea.
So if your market's everybody, your market is
nobody.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's this acronym in the business world called TAM, total addressable market. Okay. And so your TAM is directly connected with your product, with your idea. And so if you are creating a product before you're solving a problem, you're doing it backwards. Okay. So
and you can't create the problem either.
No. So you have to be able to identify that there's a gap in the market, that there is a problem, and then you create the product to solve it. So you should know, gosh, I've experienced that gap. I'm the market. Or you've heard conversation about other people complaining that there's a gap in the market and you're going to fill it, right? So you should have an idea of who those people are. Okay. Now, avatar is essentially a marketing term for what do they do? How do they behave? How do they talk? How do they dress? What products do they buy? What's their socioeconomic status? What are their names? What are their, is there a race bend? Like creating who is the ideal buyer. Well, my buyer, his name is Tom. He's 45 to 55 years old, right? And being able to like articulate who that is.
Right.
Okay. Then you create a solution to reach them. Okay. So for me, that was Facebook and Instagram marketing. That's my strength is generating leads in that area. For you, it might be cold calling. It might be literally picking up the phone and just calling business owners of a certain kind. It might be, networking if you're in real estate. It might be, right? You got to have a path to getting to your audience.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a path to getting to my audience. Now I have to decide, or I have to learn is a better way to put that. What messaging, what words gets them to respond? Okay. So I have a product. I know how to reach them. How do I make sure that I get their attention through the right language?
Right.
Okay. All right. So I have this path. Okay. I know I need to run some Instagram and Facebook ads. I know who my audience is. I know what my product is going to be. But before I can actually run ads and test messaging, I have to have some assets to be able to do that. Okay. Yep. So I spent $15 and created a logo. Okay. I didn't go out and do a whole branding package. I went to Fiverr and I found the cheapest person I could find that had an aesthetic that I liked, and I paid him $15 to make me a logo.
Boom. Check the box.
Done.
Just move on. Yeah.
Done. Will I rebrand? Absolutely.
Right.
If it's successful.
But people will spend weeks upon weeks on this going, everyone's going to care. They care about your services. They care about the content. Yeah. But anyway,
it took me 48 hours.
Yeah, we actually, and he mentioned it, but we talked about that in the first episode, not to get too stuck on these things, right? A lot of people, when they're bootstrapping, getting something off the ground, they don't get past, what am I going to call it? What's my slogan? What? Like, build out the concept first. Know that you have something to sell and then move from there. But you're doing it the right way. Check the box, move on.
Yeah, check the box, move on. And you can deploy AI assets to help you with some of this stuff. Okay, whether that's logo creation. That's how I created the concept for the logo. I went to ChatGPT, and through there you have access to their image creation also, which is called DALL-E. So I just went in there to DALL-E. I said, here's what I'm creating. I need you to give me, 8 different logo ideas. It spit out something that, gave me a few things. I circled one and I sent it to the artist and I said, create me something like this.
Boom, done.
Done.
Yeah. And that was done probably, I'm guessing, in maybe a day, half a day.
Yep, in a day.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yep. Same thing with tagline, right? It was like, here, I'm creating the International STR Association. Here's who we're serving. Here's what we're going to do. Create me a quick tagline. Here's 10 of them. I picked one. Done. Will I redo it? Probably.
It's wild. We talked about it last night. It's wild how much AI is doing right now in the marketing and branding and content creation space. It's wild.
Yep. Since I'm going to be doing online advertising, I needed a website, so I bought the domain. Okay. Did I build a full 15-page website with all the different things? No. Did I even build a contact form? No. I built a homepage with a scrolling image thing, a headline, 4 things about what we do, and a button that goes to the product that I want to sell. And that was it. Okay. MVP, minimum viable product.
Absolutely.
This has not been proven that this is going to work. So why invest all this energy into all the things and business cards and it means nothing unless it works. So I created a 1-page website. I created the logo, got the name. I used AI to help me write the copy for the website for the sections. I built the website in a day. And this isn't, you don't have to have a huge skill set to do this. The ability to build a website right now, so simple. There's so many platforms, Squarespace, Wix, Duda, Shopify. Regardless of what your platform is, pick a template, change the images, change the copy, done. Don't overthink this. Move quickly.
And I want to bring up a really cool thing that Luke did and is doing. We found out that you can actually hire your children for your business, right? We can invest our IRA money for them, all sorts of cool things that the government's allowing you to do. And he's done that with his son. So his son has actually worked on some of the website development stuff, wicked smart kid. But nevertheless, why not? Why not, instead of burning energy in all these things, hire your kid, if you have a kid, hire your kid to maybe start working on some of these things, pay him, invest into his future, win, all the way around.
Yep. Then I had to create a Facebook page. So that
was probably the hardest part for you.
That was so laborious. It took me 15 minutes. I'm not even sure it took me 15 minutes.
And it probably looked really good too in 15 minutes.
So yeah, I created a Facebook page, used Canva to create the header image, put my logo on it, done.
Canva's amazing.
I use Canva a lot.
We do too. A lot.
And so I don't need to put anything on that page, but I got to have a page to run ads. So I created the page, and now I have the core asset components to be able to test advertising, to test messaging. Okay. So you don't even have to have a product at this point. You don't have to have your product figured out at this point. You can have maybe a skeleton of what you think it's going to be. But now currently I am running tests to test messaging. So I have a whole testing protocol, and there's lots of resources out there that you can do. But I have this.
Meaning the right messaging for what you're trying to sell?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Because you can have an idea of here's who's likely to buy this product. But unless you go and validate that, you don't know. You're guessing.
Right.
And so I did a Hail Mary guess to see if I could, because I knew what the product was going to be. I put some time into it. You don't need to do that. And I launched my campaign and it sold 0. And I was like, okay.
That's not it.
Maybe I don't know what I'm as much as I thought I was going to. I should probably break this down into a bit more systematic approach. And I started testing messaging. So I went through, create 10 tests at a time, and I test images, and I test, captions, and I test headlines, and I test copy, and you go through and you systematically, and you find winners based on, response. All I'm doing is just sending, the traffic's just going to the homepage. There's nothing for them to buy. There's nothing. I don't need them to buy anything for me to validate it. I'm looking at, can I get them to respond and go there? And can I increase my percentages as I stack the messaging pieces on top of each other?
And are you using AI for that? Or are you using AI for pictures
but
and messaging?
You can.
Sure.
Copywriting, the whole ads creation, that's a strength of mine. But you don't have to be able to write good copy and write good headlines and do good image sourcing.
Right.
Like, AI is so powerful right now. And I use ChatGPT, but there's a lot of different, there's Bardly. There's another one I think that one's out there by Google.
Bart?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different ones out there.
OpenAI, I think is.
OpenAI is ChatGPT.
Oh, okay.
But there's a lot of different resources out there. And, you can get the paid version of ChatGPT is $20 a month, right? It's not game changing.
Right.
Right. So,
but if it's not your skill set, you haven't spent years of your life developing those skills.
Leverage those resources.
Yeah. Even if you're at 80%, be 80%. Just make sure that you at least can do something.
Yeah.
Move the ball forward.
Yeah. And so that's what we're systematically testing the messaging right now. So that's going to be phase one is can I find the right messaging to maximize? The only thing I'm trying to do is to maximize the amount of people that go from the ad to the page.
I know I might be jumping way ahead, and I apologize if I am, but I am very interested in what you brought up earlier because I start coach training next week. So I'm going to start building out personal branding and developing website stuff and doing exactly what you're doing for that. But I want to know how you figure out price indexing. How did you do that? Even with Degree 33, how do you get to that point where I watched a video, a guy was like, most coaches don't keep enough clients because they don't charge enough. And I thought, what? Okay, that's a interesting perspective that I just wouldn't have considered. So how do you do that? Like you said, you haven't done that yet with this, but what's going to be your approach?
Yeah. So pricing is almost universally people don't charge enough. Okay. So as a baseline, whether you're developing a widget or selling coaching, for the most part, people don't charge enough because they just want people to buy.
Sure. Or feel insecure like, I'm not there yet, or my value's not there yet. And it's no, it is.
So as that is our base note, then we start, again, it's a systematic approach to it. Okay. So you can have and you probably have an idea of like, I feel like this is probably worth X. Okay. Like I feel good about this number. I feel like I can provide this level of value. My product provides this level of value. If it's a widget, it's $29. If it's coaching, it's, $500 a month, whatever your model is, right? You start with a baseline and you see if people say yes.
But you start higher then or
you just start.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. So
just get to a place where you have an idea and go is what you're saying. Don't spend too much time trying to figure out what price it is.
No. You're not going to figure it out before you start selling it. Okay?
One begets the other.
You will not have your pricing figured out before you start selling it because sales is an indicator of whether your pricing is right or not. Now, it also is an indicator of the correct messaging, and the better messaging that you have, the more you can charge. Right? Because you're attracting the most ideal avatar, the ideal buyer.
Right.
If you have the ideal buyer and the ideal messaging, you charge more. Because they need exactly what you have.
I'll bet Tony Robbins is like $100 a month. No, but he has taken his entire life and figured out what that messaging is, and that's why he's gotten to where he is.
So if you have a very a product that is very consumer driven, that is commercialized, like there's probably a range in the market that people are going to be comfortable paying. Right. So, when we did Degree 33, it's like, okay, the cheapest boards on the market are $100 at Costco. That's not our product. The most expensive boards on the market are probably $2,000. that's not our product. So let's start at $350.
Right.
Okay. So we started at $350 and we sold. And then we bumped it to $450 and we sold. And we bumped it to $550 and it sold. And we bumped it to $650 and it sold.
Right.
Right. So then we bumped it to $750 and $850. And right at the point where you'll find that there's thresholds.
Right.
Okay?
It'll slow down.
There's thresholds at $10. There's thresholds at $100. There's thresholds at $1,000. There's thresholds at, as you reach those, you'll find out, is my threshold over this or under this? Okay, just by response. And you have to also decide, am I going for volume or am I going for like a quality positioning, meaning I'm willing to sell less at a higher dollar amount. And it's a simple math equation. If I sell 10 of these for $10, I make $100. But if I sell one at $125, I make more and it's less work. Okay, so there's a balance in there of figuring out what your play is going to be. Okay, and you start with a price and you see if people will buy it. Now this presupposes that we figured out our messaging.
Right.
Okay? Because we did that first.
Right.
We figured out our
we
messaging.
know where people are coming.
They're coming to the page. The ads are working. We've matched the messaging to the landing page.
Right.
Okay? And now we're going to start with pricing. Okay? And we're going to pick a price and we're going to see if people follow through and buy that.
Will your pricing for something like International STR Association, will you go out and do research and find similar type programs that have an educational basis and kind of look at what their pricing models are? Or are you going, no, every single offering, every service, totally different model?
The answer is yes. Okay, so
sure.
I will look at, there's a variety of trade organizations in this space and just be like, what are they doing? Now, that doesn't mean that it's successful and that's what you should pattern your stuff after. So that's why I said the answer is yes. Know what they're doing. It might inform some semblance of like what they've gotten to maybe work, but you don't know that it's actually working.
Right.
You don't know people are spending that and signing up and doing that. Okay. So, but it gives you an idea of what's out there, right? Okay. This one's $50 a year. Okay. Awesome. This one's $25 a month. Okay. Well, that's a pretty big range.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So it's always good to know, but don't dwell on it.
Sure.
It really doesn't matter. Because if you provide a better product, a better service, then you're the one that can outcharge.
Yeah, and I mentioned it before, but focus on being the only in that space, not the best, right? Everybody talks about wanting to be the best in that space, but try to figure out ways to market yourself as the only in that space, which I guess you'll be doing with STR Association. I don't know of any other services or products out there that are offering specifically short-term rental investing. I know there's coaching out there and things like that, but having an actual association attached to it, I think, is going to be absolutely game-changing. I can't wait to see it evolve and come to life. And I just wanted to mention this too. It dawned on me, I don't know why, but it dawned on me that to be an authority in any subject, you don't have to be smarter than everyone. You just have to be smarter than your followers.
Yeah.
You have to know more than your followers. And so the best way, well, how am I supposed to get these followers? How am I supposed to know more than them? Well, the 100-hour rule, right? What's his name? Sitzer or not Itzler.
Are you talking about Jesse?
Jesse Itzler. Sorry, I just butchered your name, man. But nevertheless, he talked about the 100-hour rule, right? Spend 100 hours doing that thing. You are now better than 95% of the world at that thing. Now you are an authority, potentially, right? To become an expert and an authority, you got to put in a lot more time and hours. We know that. But if you want to be more knowledgeable, start with the 100-hour rule.
Yeah, I mean, and I have spent the last 2 years doing real estate investing in this space. So I didn't just have an idea and was like, let's just create this. I spent the last 2 years doing short-term rental investing. And so
earning the ask.
Yeah. So I've got the background. I've got the success to show it. I was like, I can create something and provide significant value in this space.
Right. Totally.
And so I know what it takes to, create a rental in the short-term rental space that produces very good income. Not okay income, Very good income.
You've run it like a business, like
Yeah.
a full-on business. It's
Yeah.
not just like, a little extra revenue over here. It's like, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm going to take the messaging, I'll apply it to the landing pages. I'll then build landing pages that are designed, not my homepage, but I'll build a landing page that is specifically designed to sell my front end product. I'm going to call it a tripwire. It's what gets them into your ecosystem.
And you haven't really talked about this either, though, but the truth is there's so much purpose and value that you're bringing to other people's lives. It's not like you're just building a business to make extra money. You're actually going to change people's lives with this, right? Like people are going to be able to start investing, building wealth, building vehicles for their kids, for their future. That's amazingly fulfilling and life-giving for you, man. That's awesome.
Well, there's so many people right now, currently in this moment, that have a really high basis. They got really caught up in the enthusiasm of the whole COVID boost of short-term rentals. It was really easy to get in. Lending rates were relatively low, and it drove a lot of purchase price. There was a lot going on. You take that forward into end of 22, 23, now we're into 24, and the basis has come up a lot, and so has interest rates. And so you find that there's a lot of people right now that got really excited about getting into this business and maybe bit off a little bit more that they could chew, have too high a basis or too high of interest rate, and or their rental isn't performing like they expected it to. And they're like, I'm in trouble.
So is that part of your messaging then? Maybe even saying, hey, are you in trouble? You know,
100%.
Are you feeling the pressure? Come on, let us teach you.
100%. Like there's different messaging rules. And if you want to get deep into copywriting, like there's a whole lot there to learn. But, you know, there's systematic rule sets that you can go to get people to psychologically trigger. And one of them is pain solution. You poke the pain, you provide the solution. And so that's one that I'm leaning heavily into right now. Will it be my only, because that is an avatar, right? Someone who has a rental that's struggling. Will it be my only avatar? No. There'll also be an avatar with somebody that's like, did I miss the boat? Can I still get into this? What do I need to make sure that I know if I'm going to take this leap and buy my first? But that's going to take entirely different messaging.
Yeah.
I can't use the same messaging to get that person to take action. It can be the exact same product, but it has to be framed entirely different. The ad has to be different. The creative has to be different. The landing page has to be different. The whole thing has to be different. So you create your messaging specific to the avatar that you're trying to attract, that being one of them. And so that's the lane that we're going down right now, is like poking that pain of like, you're about to put your house up for sale because it's going to fail, not getting enough bookings. We can help you with that.
So marketing is psychology.
It's all marketing is.
Yeah, I got to admit, I don't know if I mean, I've kind of connected those dots in the past. Like, oh yeah, you're kind of persuading people, but if you're a true marketing expert, you are actually a psychologist in some respects, in terms of analyzing, you know, the wow, that's pretty eye-opening for me. That's interesting.
It is. Psychological triggers when it comes to marketing is really all that marketing is.
And I know I'm kind of stepping one off here, but I think the app actually might be relevant just for gaining information for your business and how to set stuff up on the front end. I actually listened to a CIA operative, and he said they practice something that is absolutely effective in every conversation. He said, even when you know it's happening, you still get sucked into it. It's called the 2-in-1, 2 questions, 1 affirmation. He said, you can literally draw almost psychologically, almost any piece of information out of somebody just by asking 2 questions, then affirming what they said. 2 more questions, affirm what they said. And he goes, even myself, I'm trained. You could end up doing that to me, and I will go down that path not knowing it's happening. It's mind-blowing. Anyway, psychology is a big piece of marketing business. I am mind-blown right now. Actually, I'm probably rambling because I'm mind-blown by that. I don't know why I didn't realize that. Whoa, that is a psychology game.
It's 100% a psychology game. Wow. Is using the language on your website, in your poster boards, in your signage, in your ads. It all has to use language that gets your ideal buyer enthusiastic, to take action. And that is all psychology.
So not only do you need to know your avatar, right,
Yep.
when you're building out your brand,
Or multiples. Yep.
you need to know how to make them move. You got to figure out
Which is why we're doing messaging testing, because
Right.
you don't know how to make them move.
Right.
You may have some ideas. And of course, I started with like, I think this could work, and it bombed.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, I got to reel this back.
Sure.
And now I'm just going to do simple message testing to see what are the psychological triggers for the avatar that I know exists to get them to take action.
Like, I don't know why I just had this picture of like someone like leaning over their desk with their pen, writing down like their bills and stuff
Yep.
like that.
I tested that image.
That's all I see is like someone stressed out.
And it didn't work.
Interesting.
Yep. I tested that image and it didn't work. Would I have guessed that? No. But that's why you test, because you don't know what's actually going to connect with the thoughts going on in their head.
Right.
So it's
Yeah, it's funny because maybe people reject sadness. Maybe you almost have to like put I'm just throwing ideas out here, but just put like a hanging carrot out there. Like, do you want your nightly rental to be this?
that's what worked.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was like, a luxury view. Like, because I even tried like
Interesting.
a house with a foreclosure sign, a for sale sign, a dilapidated. I tried all the different things, right?
yeah.
No, they wanted the aspirational, combined with the negative message of like, don't lose this, and the aspiration. Who didn't know? I didn't know, right? So but that's why you do it, because you don't know. You have an idea, but you then go through and you systematically test it. And while I'm doing it on Facebook and Instagram ads, you might have to do it through your phone script.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It might be, what's your opening line every time? And you test different lines. And to be statistically relevant, you have to do 100 actions. Okay? So you're going to have to do 100 of the same one. And then chart the numbers. And then switch and do another 100 of the same one. And were you able to get into the call with them or not?
You got to really be willing to go through it. You can't just, yeah. Well, and this has really been eye-opening for me because we've just recently had conversations in the last couple weeks where my feeling with a lot of sellers right now in terms of putting their homes on market, I'm in real estate, is I want what they got in 2021. I want my money, right? It's kind of this sense of entitlement. Like, I don't want to put it on and get less. I want more. I want what they got. But in the last 3 weeks, man, multiple sales have had multiple offers again. We're going back to kind of, and that's a limited inventory problem. If we get more inventory,
Yes.
that should go away. But nevertheless, my messaging could change to multiple offers again. That could get sellers to go, I'm interested in that conversation. I want to learn more about that. This is opened my eye to what I need to change my messaging to potentially.
Yep. And
Wow.
that's all about your avatar. So your avatar in that particular case is a buyer that feels like they may have missed the 21 boom.
Right.
And it's like, feel like you've missed out on 2021 pricing. We're getting multiple offers again. And they're like, wait, what? Right? So it's all,
I'm going to be pushing that today hard.
it's all the message testing, understanding your avatar. And then you asked about pricing systematically. Once you put those things together, put your price up there, see if it sells. And then you can adjust your pricing to see, do I need to lower it? Does it sell? What if I keep raising it? Does it continue to sell? And just moving the needle. I've heard people say, well, isn't someone going to be mad if they bought the same product for $250 that someone else got for $50? Maybe. So offer them the refund if they come back to you.
Right.
Problem solve it. Don't overthink this and don't create a reason to not.
Right.
But if they bought it for $250, they thought it was worth $250. So
Right. Values in the eye of the beholder, right?
absolutely.
What's your first kind of sidestepping again too, but I think it's wrong. What's your first replacement? Meaning when you start to build out and these concepts are working, clients are coming in, revenue's building, what's your personal first move, right? We like to fill the gaps with our weaknesses because, right, we should. You already have your assistant that's crushing it and doing her thing. But when you think about growing and scaling, do you think about the players that you want to start piecing together or not yet? That's way too premature. You're like, no, once this gets going, I'm building my sales team. I'm building my customer service deck. I'm building my,
So there's a few things that you have to figure out, and I'm going to answer your question by not answering it, but I'm going to answer it. So there's a few things that you have to figure out, and while you're doing message testing, while you're doing price testing, if you're in an e-commerce environment, like there's going to be downtime because it's not always like active. Like it takes 2-3 days to run a test. I can only run one test at a time. And so I've got 2 or 3 days to like work on other parts of this ecosystem that I'm building out. Okay. So part of this is going to be product sourcing, right? You're going to have to figure that out. You don't have to have it up front to start testing messaging because you're not actually selling anything. But once you have messaging figured out, the next thing is, can you sell it? So you're going to have to figure out, where do I get this? What's it going to cost me? What are my economies of scale at optimal velocity? Meaning when things are moving at a good rate. Like if I buy 100 of them, it's going to cost me $10. Well, I can only sell it for $10. But if I buy 10,000, I get them for $1. Well, now the math makes sense.
And they're making $9.
So you don't make decision on pricing based on what your low-end economies of scale are going to be. You make your decisions based on what your long-term economies of scale are going to be. And you're like, well, if this sells like gangbusters for $10, it may cost me $10 per 100 right now. But I know that if it sells like gangbusters, I can buy 10,000 of them and I can get them for $1.
Right.
So you're looking at some of those things. Where am I getting them? Am I getting them overseas? Can I get it locally? Can I make it myself in the beginning? Right? That's for our product that we're doing it. I'm making it.
And if you can break even testing it, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your goal is not to make money when you're trying to figure this out. Mm-hmm. Like your goal is to figure out what the winning formula is.
Right.
That's the goal. And so our first product, our first product is going to be Success Blueprints.
Okay.
Broken into 4 categories. It's essentially a mind map that outlines what the core components of a 6-figure rental looks like. Okay. They're going to be laminated and I'm going to mail them to you. I'm going to charge, right now I'm thinking I'm going to charge $7. Okay. It's my tripwire.
Yep.
Okay. I bought a laminator. I bought the sheets. Like I'm doing the laminating. Yep. Or I'll have, you said put your kids to work. I'll have my kids do it. Right. Yeah. Like, will I do that long term? No, because if I'm selling like 10,000 of these a month, that's not sustainable.
Right.
Okay. But I don't know that it's going to sell that way. And those items, laminators, $30 and the sheets were 25. It's like, I have 100 right there that I can do. Right. So, do it yourself. But what's your long-term product sourcing? I started making calls on fulfillment centers and stuff while I had some downtime. What's that going to cost me? Does that fit into my current model? So on and so forth. Understanding what your velocities are going to be, what your conversion rates are going to be. In other words, how many users, how many visitors I'm going to have to send to this website before I get a sale. What's it cost me to send that 100 to get 3 sales, so on and so forth. So you're figuring out the math of it all, right? You're putting together the components of like, what does this actually look like in motion? Like you can have this grandiose business plan, but until you actually have boots on the ground, like going through it, I mean, the last note I have here is hold it loosely. Like,
don't have heavy expectations for especially when you start building out your spreadsheets and your metrics and you realize, oh yeah, the economies of scale don't work. A lot of people stop there, but man, don't stop there. Keep looking for solutions.
But also like, know there's probably some built-in failure points. Like this isn't going to work. The market isn't as rabid as I thought it was. They're not as in pain as I thought it was.
If you're failing, you're doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Failure is baked into this whole equation.
It is.
And really getting something off the ground is how fast can you move from failure to failure, because it's not going to work in the beginning. It's not. If what you started worked in the beginning, you got lucky. And luck happens. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, when you're getting something off the ground, you fail over and over and over and over. And each time you fail, you learn something from that and you iterate and you make sure you fill that gap. And then you realize there's another breakage point. There's a great analogy, Roush Racing. So Roush has been in racing for like, I would butcher it, like 70 years, 100 years. I don't know.
Long time.
Forever,
yeah.
Right? And they have always been known as developing some of the best engines in auto racing. Okay. They were asked at one point, like, what makes Roush engines so good? And he goes, well, we build the best engine that we can. Okay. And then we put a brick on the accelerator and run it till it explodes. Literally. And then we tear the engine apart and figure out what the broken part was, and we fix that part. And we improve that part. And then we rebuild the engine, and we put a brick on the accelerator, and we go to lunch. And the engine explodes. And we come back, and we figure out what part broke, and we fix that part. And we do that again and again and again and again. And if you do that over and over, the process is the same when you're building something. If you do that over and over and over, you by default win, because you've failed so many times that winning is the eventual outcome. But you have to be willing to break it over and over and over and figure out all the ways it doesn't work before you find the way it does work. I mean, it's stupid, but I mean, look at Edison. And I say stupid, that's the wrong word. It's cliche-ish. But look at Edison, right? I mean, how many light bulb things did he go through? 10,000?
Right.
Before he found the right filament that actually worked? He failed 10,000 times to find the right one.
And I'll bet you anything, the one regret he has is wishing he would have just failed those faster.
Faster.
Right? Like, be willing to add expediency to your failures. Like, the faster you fail, in fact, Gary Vee said that too, right? I love when I fail. The faster I fail, the better, because it makes me realize I'm that much closer to success.
Speed it up.
Yep.
Fail fast.
And I think the real toxicity around failure, the word, the concept, is thinking that other people are judging us for it. And I'm here to tell you, they don't care. No, like, sure, they might go, oh, man, too bad. No, but they are moving on with their life. They don't care. So don't get caught up in this idea that everyone's just going to watch me fail and I should never try this again. And no, they don't care. They care way more about their lives, and rightfully so, for different reasons. But just don't let that toxicity set in. Have fun failing.
Has anybody ever been inspired by a story of, like, so I had this idea, I rolled it out, and I'm a bazillionaire?
And everything went right.
It's like, you suck. Like,
and it's not a real story.
No one's inspired by that.
And that's not a story. That's a trust baby story.
You know, we all want to hear about the guy that, like, went out and grinded and slogged through the mud and broke down and almost quit and lost everything and rebuilt. And because it's like, okay, that I can do that.
Yeah.
Right? So
yep.
Failure is baked into the process, and I'm kind of preaching to myself because failure sucks. You hate to find out that, man, that idea didn't work, and I thought it was gonna work. And you're also gonna build some ideas. You mentioned it as we were talking about, you know, what we were gonna cover this. Some ideas are going to work, and you're gonna come out the other side and go, this wasn't what I thought it was gonna be.
Right.
You could characterize that a failure.
Right.
Right? Did it still work? Sure. Did it work to the level that you wanted to work? No. And so,
admitting that's hard. You know, it is.
Yeah, because we think other people are going to judge us because we pivoted.
Yeah. Oh, you must have failed. You're doing something different now. No. Right? Not necessarily. And I mentioned it last night when we were all hanging out, but I want to bring it up today too. Is that just understand too that failure and a restart or reboot, it just looks different every decade, right? Just be willing to understand that you change with life and your ambitions when you started something when you're 20s versus your 30s versus your 40s and 50s. It all could just look a little different. Be willing to accept that and still stay excited about what that ambition looks like in this new season. But I say that because I think sometimes we compare, right, to like, man, I don't have the same level of excitement I had when I was, you know, in my 30s or whatnot. And it's like, well, you're not going to.
You're not going to have the same amount of energy.
Yeah. It's just not possible.
Not realistic. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to have a lot of things that you have to figure out. Some of those things are going to take longer processes. Some of it's going to be very hands-on. And, to come back, I told you wasn't going to answer your question by answering it. You're going to have opportunities to work on some of those other things in between.
Yep.
You don't, in other words, creating an organizational chart of like who you need to hire doesn't take priority over executing on moving the ball forward, because it doesn't move the ball forward.
Sure.
Does it need to be done? Yes, it absolutely. I need to figure out who's going to be my first hire.
Right.
Okay. Likely it'll probably be one of my kids that can laminate the success blueprints.
Right.
Okay. But that doesn't matter yet.
You're still product testing. I mean,
I'm idea testing, messaging testing, pricing testing. Is it the right product? Like the concept, the organization, the avatar, I believe is there, but I'm still even testing that. Like, does this actually have legs? Is it actually going to go? Are people actually going to take action? Am I providing the right entry product? Is the 4 success blueprints what they want to buy? Right. And part of that's positioning, part of that's messaging. They'll buy anything if they think it's going to solve their problem. Right. So, but I have to figure all that out. Do I need to give it away instead of charge $7 and then upsell into coaching on the backside to like execute it? I don't know. We'll have to figure that out by determining, does my current idea work? And if it fails, then you iterate and change and try something different.
And exactly. And it's hard. I will say, I'm going to use a good example here, right over there. You don't see it, but I have a huge binder that I had my operations director work on for a couple days. It has all of our past sales from 2022 and 2023 in there. My thought as a value proposition to our agents was, hey, bring this along with you to your listing appointments, man. Flop that thing down on the table when they eventually ask about it and what it's about. Hey, these are all the sales we've made throughout the last couple of years, to impress them, right? They say, hey, we know what we're doing. We're not just throwing a sign in the ground and hoping it works out. That has been valueless to the agents. They don't care about it. They don't take it to their appointments, and it's okay, right? Yeah. I definitely had that moment of like, wow, I just wasted some money and someone's time and energy to do all this, and it went nowhere. And you know what? That's okay. Sometimes just the point of seeing or others, whether it be your clients or your employee base, seeing that you're trying just to add value every step of the way is the point. And be willing to realize that the things that you thought might not have so much value might be the most valuable things, and vice versa, and be willing to accept that and grow those things. Yeah.
Yep. It's a process of, you're figuring it out.
Yeah.
Every step, at every point, and you're going to make good calls, you're going to make bad calls, and some of those bad calls are going to cost you money.
Yep.
Some of those good calls are going to cost you more money than you thought. Some of them are going to be free. You have to come at this, and I think holding it loosely is the right way to kind of tie a bow on all this. Like, you have some sort of construct, some sort of framework of like, yeah, I think it's going to look like this.
Right.
99% of the time, maybe more, it's not going to look like that.
Right.
So being adaptable and iterate and improve on your original idea and concept is fundamental to getting something off the ground, because it is a puzzle. And I do think one of my strengths is being able to solve the puzzle, being able to figure it out. But if you get a no, it's not a final no. It's a no, not like that.
Right.
And going, okay, I got to go back to my last yes. And now instead of going to the right, I need to try the left and see, oh, no, that was a no too. Or I'm going to try the middle. Oh, that worked.
Yeah.
And that's my next yes. And then you build from there. And it's just this decision tree that creates, in the end, the right outcome. But you had you had way more failures than successes through this whole process. So
right.
Hold it loosely. Don't get all angry about what's working and what's not, and move expediently. Move fast.
Are you developing, and it seems obvious, but it's not obvious to people like me. Are you developing your financial model from day one all throughout the way as you're doing these things and developing messaging and product and processes? are you building out your metrics and your financial model through all that? Because every business needs its own unique financial model. What could and would be cool through STR association is receiving that financial model as an new STR investor going, sweet, I have a starting point to build off of, because someone like myself might not have that.
You mean for the investor, a financial model for the investor, or financial model for the association?
Both. Well, and I just mentioned that I think it'd be really cool to, if you haven't already, is develop a product that hands the financial model for the STR to the investor. Someone like me that might not have an STR go, sweet, I at least have something to work off of here that I didn't know, I'm thinking through factors I wouldn't have thought of on my own. But then I guess subsequently, are you also through your building and bootstrapping, are you building out your financial models as you go?
Yeah.
Or are you like, no, I want to prove everything first and then I'll start building out what that needs to look like?
Well, the financial model, sometimes you have to see the path to the profitability that you want to achieve, right?
Okay.
So there might be a breakage point in there, right? So you have to see the path to getting there,
right?
And that will on some level inform your decisions. Because if this product only sells for $3, but it costs me $6 to produce, even at economies of scale, well, that financial model doesn't work.
Right. You're going to lose money fast.
Okay. So you can have some ideas, but then the information and the testing process informs some of that. Do I have that figured out? No, I don't.
Okay.
Am I figuring it out as I go? Yeah, because my website conversion rates are going to affect that. My cost per visitor, my CPA is going to figure, cost per acquisition.
So you have ratios figured out for your model.
I have an idea of what it could be to be successful.
Okay.
But some of that is still like, but is that even realistic? Like it feels it's a little premature because you don't know. Is this going to convert at 10% or 1.5%?
So that's that hold it loosely conversation.
Yeah.
That you can't get too tight on financials because that could morph and change as you test new things.
Yeah.
And
once you prove that the product works, we'll move to a scaling effort. And that'll be another episode down the line once I've proved that this works. And once you get to I have the green light.
Right.
This model is going to work. Now it's like, all right, what's the financial model? What are my product? What's my ascension model? Meaning what they're going to go from a $6 product does not make you rich. Okay. So how can I get them from a $6 product to a $50 product to a $150 product to a $1,000 product? How do I ascend them through that process?
Right.
Building trust along the way. Right. And you can get all of a sudden to what we call a slack adjuster of a $1,000 product. And all of a sudden your unprofitable everything all of a sudden becomes profitable. So you can figure out your models as you go, but you don't have to have that up front. You just have to go, can I find the right messaging and can I make them take action?
Totally. Man, there's a lot of good content in there. We filled the space up pretty good. And I think there's going to be more to follow. We had kind of touched on failure a little bit today. And I think we're going to build on that a little bit more and how we bounce back, how we handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot there to unpack. Failure's baked into this whole thing. And maybe we'll talk about that next time. We'll see.
I think so.
But
more to come.
Creating something from the beginning is messy. And it's not going to go the way you think it's going to go. And it's going to be wrought with failure. And just move from failure to failure with great enthusiasm.
And none of that should stop you from starting. I know most of you are going to go, ugh, what? That doesn't sound great. Interestingly enough, if you are an entrepreneur, it may still not sound great, but it won't phase you. So just don't let it stop you from starting, right?
Yep.
Just know that that's going to come. It's a part of it.
Yep.
All right. Cool.
Thanks for joining us.
Likewise.
We're out.
Appreciate you, man. We're up. Later.
Thank you for tuning in to Processing Purpose. We hope you grabbed a few gold nuggets to take one step forward in your journey of life and business. Please remember to like and subscribe our channel if you'd like to get more content to help you build and grow everything around you. Make today your best day. Today is day one.